Was it productive? There's death in the tongue, isn't it? How many people in here work with somebody and you'd like to work them over? I mean, if we're being honest. I mean, sometimes
we could be on that level if you did.
Yeah, you would be, but that don't keep you from thinking about it. That doesn't keep you from wanting to just give it to them. Sometimes avoiding death in the tongue, it's hard to avoid. It takes real strength to think about life in the tongue. How easy is it for you, and again, this is about y'all, how easy is it for you to really get up in the morning and ask God to put people in front of you that you can speak life into? How easy is that? How easy is it to speak life to people? To really, because you got to think about it. You got to really think about it, and you got to try. If you're going to be a person that goes around and looks for opportunities to speak life into people, how hard is that to do?
I don't think it's that hard if you're a general positive person anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's not a hard thing to do. I think what makes it hard is this, if you're doing that and someone's like dumping on you, and crushing what you're doing, and you're like,
what if you're not really outgoing? What if you're just kind of maybe a great listener and you don't really interact with people a lot? It makes it even harder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're kind of forced to deal with just your family then. How important is it as a parent to speak life into your kids? Do your kids today, do they do better if you are more encouraging, or if you're more of a disciplinary, more of an authoritarian? What works in your family? What works in y'all's family?
Each kid's different for us.
Each kid's different? Okay. How about you guys? Your kids are up and gone and married.
At the age they are now, it's more of a encouraging and it's really advice giving, I think.
How many of y'all really never had to, your kids don't need a lot of encouragement? Do you have a kid in the house that really don't need a lot of encouragement? You got any, speaking about your kids, are some of them kind of self-motivated? We got a self-motivated kid, our youngest one. She's a self-starter. You don't have to stay on her about really anything, about school, important things. Jackson, worked for me for a year. You don't have to stay on him about anything, do you? Then you may have a kid that really, really takes a lot of get up and go, a lot of encouragement. Well, sometimes in the marriage and in the home, we are like that. I function a lot better in the marriage if I'm encouraged. But if Jamie doesn't do this, but if she did grind me and stay on me all the time and everything was do this, do that, I would not function good in that environment. How about you? Do some of y'all like that? Maybe don't answer this out loud, but do some of you live with a person that is really never satisfied? They don't really encourage you. They don't speak life into you. Let me tell you what that will do in a relationship. It will separate it. It will divide it, and you'll be divorced. Or you'll live in one end of the house, and they'll live in the other, and you'll just live a separate life. And that works too. All of that works. Steve, how do you operate as an elder? Do you like to be encouraged, or are you okay just not being encouraged at all?
It's nice being encouraged.
Yeah.
I always try to be a self-starter, but encouragement never hurts.
Yeah. Listen, I've got some stuff for you. I want you to think. Are the words you're about to say, are they gossip? Are they gossip? Gossip is just as bad as any sexual sin. Did you know that? You may have a problem with pornography, okay? Well, if you got a problem with gossip, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You may have a problem with alcohol. You may have a problem with laziness. You can dress it up however you want to, but this is just as bad as anything else right here. If you want to sit around and talk about people, you'll talk about them, but you won't talk to them. That is just as bad as if you had a problem with alcohol, pornography, marijuana, whatever you want to call it, drugs, whatever. The ones we like to list. Adultery, that's just as bad. So when people see you coming Do they see a person coming that's going to build them up or tear them down? What do they see? If you had to look in the mirror and answer that question, am I that guy? Am I that girl? Am I that Christian? What are you? Are you a person that speaks life or do you speak death? And what I mean by that is they're speaking life to people is being honest with people. It is. There's times that Jamie's got to be honest with me. There's times I got to be honest with her. And it may not be super positive, but it's the truth. And I'm not trying to sit up here and say that just because you're not a positive person, you're dealing with a situation. Listen, if you're honest with somebody, that's speaking life to them. That is.
But it's different than like you're talking about. That's a certain situation.
Yeah.
That's different than like what you were talking about a minute ago. My ex, he was totally negative about it.
He's a jerk.
And,
Is he a jerk?
Yeah, so my brother said. But, you know, it's one thing to come home and constantly complain about things, but yet not to take it to the source and not to try to correct things.
Yeah. How many of y'all does it burn you up to find out later that somebody has been talking about you and they got it all wrong? Is that tough? That's tough to deal with. That gossip. That used to be not. Yeah, the older you get, you don't give to.
It don't matter because this is personal. When I married Brett, he had a daughter that was. When we started dating, she was a year old. When we married, she was 2. When she was 4, we got custody of her because her mother had some mental and all kinds of issues. But anyway, there were people that went to court against us for her that didn't really know the situation. But the truth will eventually come out, whether you get to know it or not.
It used to really bother me, but I don't care anymore. I don't know.
It's wasted energy and your emotions.
Yeah.
And affects not you, but who you surround.
100%. Yeah, I could care less anymore. I guess God brought me to a good place. Death and life start right here. Every bit of it. I want you to listen to this. Maybe this is you. Are there things that are coming out of your mouth worth listening to? When I open my mouth, is what I'm about to say worth listening to? That's a good question. That's a fair question. How about this one? Are you a Christian who is known for speaking life? Are you the person that somebody's going to call up when they are in the valley? Because you're going to speak life to them. What can you change to be more encouraging by your speech? And maybe it ain't your speech, maybe it's your tone. Before we get into these scriptures, tell me about tone.
Very important.
In what way? Talk about Nathan's tone when y'all get in a fight. Nathan doesn't come across to me as really scary.
He doesn't get a whole lot of tone.
It's kind of like even kill, ain't it?
Pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Zachary? How about your tone in a fight?
I can ask my son about my tone sometimes.
Yeah. you see, you guys are engineers, right? Y'all just seem to be kind of. Stacy, how about your tone? Can you turn it up?
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. Steve, what about your tone? Can it change maybe the way that Barbara has perceived you in a fight? Yeah. Yeah, tone is everything, isn't it? It's everything. I have to be very careful with that because I'm type A personality and I'm a get it done guy and I can be aggressive and I have to watch that. And because my tone can get the message that I'm saying doesn't always come across and line up with the tone that I mean. Does that make sense? That can be a problem, especially as a school bus driver. I had 72 kids on the bus today. 72 kids. 3 to a seat, 24 seats.
They're all still alive.
What?
They're all still alive.
It was, listen, sometimes your tone and situation, Barry is a captain. You deal with life and death in the world, real world. You got new guys underneath you and you're at a fire, you're at a wreck. It's a bad situation. You guys are faced now with, in crime-ridden areas, you have to be careful that bullets could be flying sometimes at y'all. How important is it that the guys that work for you do what you tell them to do when you tell them to do it? How important is that? Does your tone sometimes have to change?
I don't change my tone very often. I mean, in my line of work, if I get excited,
It's a big deal because you've been doing this 30 years.
I mean, I'm supposed to bring some peace to the situation, not chaos.
Yeah.
So when I show up, everything is professional. It's state the facts, we get the job done, that's it.
Yeah.
But no, I don't change the tone.
Some people are different though, like you're saying with tone, because some people only change their tone when it's necessary. Some people change their tone when they're always talking.
Mm-hmm.
They're just emotional when they're talking.
Now, can you define that, tone or attitude?
I think tone and attitude are kind of
They're similar. They got
very
the
same thing, aren't they? Yeah. How about marriage? What does tone mean in marriage? Be life in the tone and death in the tone? Big time, can't it? Look at this. I want you to flip over. We got some verses here. I'm gonna. You just. I'll call it out, and you say got it. And ladies, you read too, okay? Colossians 4:6.
I got it.
Ephesians 4:29. Misty, where? Okay, Matt's got it. Misty, Proverbs 15:4. Jamie, Matthew 15. Okay. Gary, would you like to read?
Sure.
Okay. You got Proverbs 21. Who's got Proverbs 17? Thank you, Steve. Proverbs 18.
You need to get a new marker.
I know. Somebody buy some
I'll
markers.
bring you one.
Take a break.
Chris, Proverbs 18. Who's got Psalms 139:4?
I'll get it.
Stacy got it? Okay. I'm going to let you do Proverbs 31, the virtuous wife. I'll give you the verse in a few minutes. Let's go in that order, okay? Let's go in that order, and then we're going to define how we need to become more about gossip. You need to become a gossiper, okay? We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, we've got Colossians 4:6.
Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one.
Oh, man. Read it one more time.
Let me read it a little louder tone.
Yeah, a little louder tone.
Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one.
I had a hamburger tonight, the last 3 nights on the grill. And if you've ever eaten one of my hamburgers, I take a lot of pride in it because I make them real big and they're real pink on the inside. But the most important part about that hamburger is that it's got lemon pepper and it's got Worcestershire sauce, and I mix it all up. Okay, it's really good.
What kind of pepper?
Lemon pepper. And so what I do is I let it sit in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Now look, it's really important that you do that so that lemon pepper and that Worcestershire can get in it. It's seasoned. And then when you cook it and all of that flavor comes out, it tastes better than just a regular hamburger. It's seasoned. It's intentional. It goes hand in hand with what he's saying, is that you have to be intentional and you have to season what you're fixing to say. And that requires you to do some prep work. You've got to think about what you're fixing to say. You've got to weigh it before you say it. Because what happens is if we get impulsive and emotional and we get heated, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Not good stuff.
Well, you're going to have an explosion.
Well, not even just that, but even at work, if I come back with a comment, it can almost sound sarcastic, even though.
Yeah, you got to think about it.
Sometimes I mean it that way, but. No.
Yeah, that's what he just read, is that you've got to weigh it before you say it. Season it. Make sure that what you're fixing to say is going to be a blessing to somebody, whether it's truthful or not. It can. I mean, look, I'll start it, you finish it. Sometimes the truth hurts, and that's good. You want the truth. I need the truth. I may not want it at the time, but I need it. So you can be honest and truthful with somebody, and it can save their life, even if it's difficult to hear. So when you're talking to somebody and you're getting ready to respond, that's a very powerful passage. Let it be seasoned. Make sure that you're preparing what you're fixing to say, and you're not just going to, I'll start this, sticks and stones May break my bones, but words will never. Well, that's crap. That's not true. That's not true. Yeah, we'll build a wall with words. Big time. All right, who's got the next one? Ephesians 4:29.
Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear.
Read it again. Gotta have it twice.
Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear.
Man, don't be talking filthy. Don't do that. Don't be filling people full of a bunch of stuff that's going to hurt them. As much as you may want to, as much as you may feel you have the right to, as much as you may be ready to drill somebody because they deserve it, he says don't do that. Don't let it be unwholesome. Do what is best for the other person. Speak life. Speak good things. What's that mean to you? Don't be talking a bunch of stuff that look, if that's what the world sounds like, you don't sound like that. You give people better than what they deserve. How hard is this to do?
Very.
It is very difficult. I haven't mastered this yet. I haven't.
I can tell
I struggle with it.
When if I've had words with people or difference in opinion or
I
something.
thought you were fixing to say a lot to drink.
No.
Didn't have a lot to drink. I thought you were fixing to say.
No.
Wake up, Nathan.
When I've had, when someone makes you really angry or has wronged you in some way or done something to hurt your family or whatever, and you're angry, something I have really worked hard on in the past, 6 or 8 years is to not go with my knee-jerk reaction, because that is always wrong. And to take like that, it's just for me, it's like take 24 hours to process what that is, figure out like how you want to handle that, the words you want to use, and it always works out way better than what I was gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's just better to, when you're in the middle of a fight, and this may be in the marriage, just call a timeout and leave. I hear people say this all the time. No, you're gonna work this out. You stay there. No, bad idea. Sometimes that don't work. Call a timeout and just leave. One of you leave before somebody does something really stupid. That doesn't work for everybody. Some people want to stay. If you can stay and work it out, stay and work it out. But if you can't, and you're becoming to the point that you pass the point of no return, leave. Come back to it. Respect each other enough to allow that person to leave, and you may need to go stay somewhere. Stay at Mama's house. Can I come over and stay sometime?
Stay with me.
We'll go eat cake. We'll go eat cake, won't we? And go rolling.
Strawberry.
Chocolate. German chocolate. Strawberry.
It was good, but not like your strawberry.
Who's got the next one? Who's got the next one?
What is it,
Proverbs 15:4. Read it.
The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit.
So, a soothing tongue is a tree of life. Man. A soothing tongue. Wow. That's a person that really is thinking about what they're going to say. Man, that's a tree of life. That is a tree that produces everlasting fruit. So is that what your intention is when you're speaking to people?
You have to learn to practice that. Like Teresa said, you have to practice to learn to act the way that you know you should act instead of react. Another thing, just like when we were fixing to get divorced, he made the statement, "I know you hate me," and I said, it'd be a whole lot easier if I did, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I acted and some of the things I could have done, in hindsight, affected my children way more and some of the things that they went through after that.
Well, since you brought that up, how many of you in here have said something that you wish you could take back, and you know it, and you think about it a lot? Is there any one particular person that's in your mind right now that if you could go back to the situation and you could have this knowledge that you have in this class, and you have prayed this up and God has worked it in you, what would you give to redo that whole situation? I would give anything. I'd give anything. This is why we need this, because you can't go back. Now, you can be forgiven, and it may change the relationship, and you can't do anything about that. You got to move forward. But this is why we're talking about this. This is so important. It's so important. So important.
You know, at the time, you really don't realize the gravity of it. At that moment, you know, years ago, we had an incident with another couple, some friends of ours, and it was going over text messages back and forth between us. And I actually can remember saying, okay, whatever we're going to say next is going to be the effect of our relationship. Whether we go this way, we're not going to be friends anymore, or we can take the high road, or we can, you know, we understood right then that it had the potential of being a really big deal if we decided to go that route.
How did it work out?
Being emotional, huh?
How did it work out?
Worked out great.
Good. That's great advice. Never have a conversation that could go north or south by text. The best thing in the world is to sit down eyeball to eyeball. That is your eyeballs in front of my eyeballs. And let's sit down and let's work it out. Because see, when we do that, we can pray together. We can start it with a prayer, we can end it with a prayer. We may walk away disagreeing, but things tend to work out better, don't they?
With a text message, you can interpret that any way you want to.
It's a great point.
You have to use an
And
emoji.
you don't know tone.
Did y'all hear what he said? There's some wisdom there. Say that again, Josh.
You got to use the appropriate emoji with the right text.
So today, when you sent me that one of that smiley face with that heart going out, what did that
was a
mean?
bird finger.
Oh. Don, you can't do that for you. I love it. Who's got Matthew 15, 10, 11? Read it.
When he called the multitude to himself, he said to them, "Hear and understand. Not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, that is what defiles a man." Then his disciples came to him and said, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying?"
Wow. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it. Some of us don't want to hear that. But Jesus said it before he made the statement. He said, do two things. Hear me and understand me. Don't just hear me, but you understand me. It's kind of like faith and works. Works without faith is dead, and vice versa. But look, your faith and your works, your faith in God your work should be a natural response of your faith if you're convicted. But the problem is that we in the church now, we get offended instead of convicted. And that's not what we need. We should want it. Everything that we're reading right now, that we're getting, we should want that. Jesus said, it is not what you eat that defiles you. Because your body, it cleanses that. It passes it out. But it's what comes out of you that defiles you. And he also told them, he said, for every idle word you speak, you will give an account. Now that's scary. You think about that. For every idle word that I speak to somebody, I'm going to have to give an account for that. That's powerful. That's scary. All right, who's got Proverbs 21, 23? You're getting a lot of wisdom now.
Whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles.
Man, guard it. Guard it. What you got a lock on at your house? What would be hard to get at your house? Guns. What would be hard to get at your house?
Sunny.
What would be hard to get at your house? Nathan, wake up. Teresa would be, you're supposed to say my wife. What would be hard to get? What would be hard to get at your house? Think about that. My wife and my children, they'd be hard to get. You try to get them. Think about that. He says, guard your mouth. Guard your mouth with life. Guard it. Man, if there's one thing that we need to work on guarding, it's not your possessions. It's eternity, because this has everything to do with eternity. Guard it. Do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. All right, who's got the next one? Proverbs 17, 27, and 28.
He who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. When he shuts his lips, he is considered perceptive.
So even a fool who closes his mouth is considered to be what? What did it say about the fool in verse 28?
Perceptive.
Perceptive. What does that mean?
John says intelligent.
Look, he says this. Even if you don't say nothing, you may be a fool, but even if you don't say nothing, you're wise. Now think about that. Sometimes you don't have to respond. Did you know that? How many of y'all in here are good at not responding in a fight? Raise your hand, Steve. I knew that. Matt, you good at that?
Makes me more mad.
It does.
I don't do it for that reason, but I don't.
So that's your motive. That'd be your motive.
No, it's not my motive. I just let it go.
It's hard to argue with one person, isn't it? By yourself. You know, sometimes it's just better not to say nothing, isn't it? I mean, why do we feel like we have to say something? Why? Well, you want to be right. I mean, who likes to always give the last word? Well, we got one honest person in here, Gary. I think the older I get, I care less. I just want peace.
Yeah, you learn that.
Yeah, I just want peace. I'm like, okay. Think about that. Sometimes we just lock it down. Just shut it, lock it down. It's hard to mess up when you don't open it, isn't it? I mean, he said, look at the correlation, even a fool. All right, who's got Proverbs 18:4?
The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook.
Woo! Read it again.
The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook.
He said the fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook. What does that mean? The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook. What does that mean?
The less you say, the more each word you speak matters.
When E.F. Hutton speaks, everyone... Do you remember that? You remember that? E.F. Hutton. There are some people, when they speak, bless you, when they speak, because they don't speak a lot, you're going to listen, and their words are a lot more powerful.
Bubbling brook is also common.
Thought to this is something I try to share with people that I know. That shared with me a long time ago. Choose the hill you die on, right? And that goes to say that some people argue everything. We all know someone who wants to argue every point, and thus the argument doesn't mean anything because it's just who they are. It means nothing to them or to you because you're like, okay, here we go with this again. Mm-hmm. But those who don't, that are reserved, much you're talking about that when they sit there, you're like, okay, they're not usually upset about this. They're not usually this. We need to take heed of what's going on because it actually matters. It seems out of the ordinary at that point in time. So I would say in the same mindset, those who are reserved that, hold their speech until they actually want to say something. You're like, okay, yeah, it actually means something now to this person. And that even speaks to you because you've now unconsciously said, this is important to them, so now it's important to me. I need to listen.
I struggle with that. I do. I struggle with that. Y'all got what he said. Chase is super intellectual. I broke that down, and I get it. I struggle with it. I appreciate you saying that. I think a lot of people have a problem with that, is that we can't wait to be understanding. We can't wait to be understood rather than understanding. I want you to understand what I'm trying to tell you. And that's a problem for me. It's something that I'm aware of, and I know it's sin because it doesn't make you a good listener. And sometimes in our house, I fight that. I'm working on it. I fight it. God gave me 2 teenage daughters to help me fight that. Who's got Psalms 139:4? Because those girls will hold you accountable.
Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether.
Woo, man, read that again. Listen to this, y'all.
Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether.
Wow. How scary is that? God knows what I'm fixing to say before I say it. How scary is that? That's alarming to me. Is that God already knows what I'm fixing to say. Man, could be a good thing too, couldn't it? Could be a real good thing. Let's look at this, and then Chase is going to read to us a little bit about Proverbs 31. Why you should gossip. When you think about the word gossip, is what I'm fixing to say God honoring? Is what I'm fixing to say going to honor God? That's the first thing that should come to my thought. First thing that comes to my mind is when you and I are going to have a conversation, is it going to honor God? Look, we whatever we bind on earth, God binds in heaven. We might disagree about something, but if we bind it and we're good, then it's good with God. That's what that means. The verse sometimes is taken out of context where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. What he's talking about there is that if Jamie and I, not wrong, not right, just different, have a disagreement, and we agree to disagree, and as long as sin is not involved, then that disagreement can still honor God. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not wrong, not right, just different. Different is not wrong. Different is not sinful. And we get caught up with that in the church a lot. We get caught up in tradition, and it's not wrong, it's not right, it's not scriptural, it's not unscriptural. We got to give that a break. Same thing in the house. Does that make sense? It's the same thing. If Jason and I have a disagreement and we work it out, and he goes about his way and I go about my way, we may not be the best of friends, but we can honor God by the way that we speak to each other. Does that make sense? Okay. This one here, is what I'm fixing to say going to be offensive? If this is not working, is what I'm fixing to say going to offend somebody? Now look, sometimes the truth can be offensive because you don't want to hear it. But is it offensive to God? You may not like it. You may not like it. But is it offensive? How about this one? Is it something, what I'm fixing to say, something that everyone can hear? This is offensive. Is what you're fixing to say something that everybody can hear? How about the next one here? This one is I forgot that one. Is it going to shatter? Is it going to shatter someone's confidence? In other words, if Josh tells me something in confidence and I go out and share it on Facebook or share it with people, that could shatter our relationship. So can you, before you say it and you have an agreement with somebody, if they confide in you, is what you're fixing to say to somebody else about them, it could shatter a relationship. We've got to think about that. And then this one here is that could this one interfere, and you need to think about this one here, interfere with my witness. My witness. Everybody is a witness of Christ. If you're a Christian, you're a witness. You're on the stand, you're a display, you're a witness for what Christ has done in your life, whether you like it or not. You're a city set on a hill for the whole world to see. So could what I'm fixing to say interfere with the example that I'm setting for you? Could I be talking about some things I shouldn't be talking about? Nasty. Listening to a dirty joke. Telling a dirty joke. Could it be, even, it don't even have to be dirty. It could be something that I'll not even be talking about, and it could interfere with my witness. And then the last one, is it pleasing to God? Pleasing to God. Is what I'm fixing to say pleasing to God? Now that's pretty good, isn't it? Isn't that good? Those are things that we need to think about. All right, to finish this up, and then next week we're going to talk about working together as a team. Teamwork makes a dream work, ministering together. Chase, you got Proverbs 31, and I want you to read, let's see here. We're going to be in the latter part. Where was it that I wanted you to read? All right, look at verse 26. Read 26.
Proverbs 31, 26.
Yes, sir.
She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness.
All right, so look, this is the virtuous woman. There's two things that she does that come out of her mouth when she speaks. One is wisdom, and the next one is kindness. Wow. Now, if you adopt that personality, if you adopt that spirit in you, when you open your mouth, that things that come out of your mouth are wise and things that are on your tongue are sweet and kind to people, guess what? You're going to be a blessing to people. You think that's something that we all could work on in our marriage? You think it's something we could work on when we're dealing with brothers and sisters in Christ? You think it's something that we could work on when we're dealing with the public? You think employees? This is hard to do. Every bit of what we talked about tonight is a challenge, but it should be a distinct marker in our life. It should be almost a natural response if we are praying about this, if we are putting this before God. And look, it can't just be, I'm going to mention it in prayer. It can't just be that I'm going to mention this. I've got to be convicted about it. I've got to lay this out before God and say, God, you know as your son that I'm struggling with this. I have a real problem with my mouth. I have a problem with my tongue. And you might be that person that says, well, I only struggle with this when this person makes me feel this way. No, that's bull. You're in control of that. That's the last fruit of the Spirit, self-control. And you can control 4 things in your life. It's the only 4 things you can control. And it's what you think, it's how you choose to feel, it's what you say, and it's what you do. You can control those 4. And those are very difficult to control. They're very difficult to control. Does all this make sense? Well, we've finished. Is there anything you'd like to say? I guess I said it all. Next week, we're going to talk about teamwork, working together in the home, or working with somebody ministering the gospel together. Okay?